All right, welcome to early and late degrees in astrology part 2. 0 degrees to 14 degrees of Libra. The early degrees, this is the frantic entryway, stumbling into Venus's cathedral with bleeding hands. The scales haven't even been dusted yet. It's like waking up in the courtroom before the trial starts, panic buzzing through fluorescent veins, shuffling papers, screaming order, but the gavel never drops. Early Libra is trying to draft blueprints for beauty, build symmetry out of static. You can taste the desperation. Justice must be achieved. Love must be balanced. Don't lean too far left. Don't breathe too far right. 0 degrees to 14 degrees of Libra is the fragile architect of fairness. They are babies with gavels, poets with measuring tape, terrified that harmony will collapse if they blink too hard. 15 degrees to 29 degrees of Libra, the late degrees. This is where the trial's already gone on for years. The judges are drunk, the jury's asleep, and the witness stand is a confessional booth nobody asked for. These degrees have danced through compromise and come out limping. They've learned the scales and heavy rested, weighted with blood and history. 15 degrees to 29 degrees of Libra is no longer naive. They're scorched, exhausted diplomats holding their cigarette like a sword, muttering balance is a myth, but I'll keep pretending. By the final degree, 29 degrees of Libra, the anoretic degree, it's the climax, the scale shattering in your hands, peace choking on its own perfume. You're still bowing on the collapsing stage, whispering, was it fair? Was it ever fair? Was it ever even real? Early Libra, 0 degrees to 14 degrees, frantic architects of fairness, chasing symmetry like it's a drug. But late degrees, Libra, 15 degrees to 29 degrees, wary judges, black and romantics, still playing the harmony game, knowing the dice are loaded. Libra is the theater of balance. First act, desperate applause. Last act, smoke, ash, and a standing ovation for a performance that was never truly balanced at all. My neighbors have their window opened. My pets' neighbors have their window open. That was probably Dad and Grandpa. Let's just sit. All right. 0 degrees to 14 degrees of Scorpio. The early degrees, the baptism in gasoline. This is where you stumble into the crypt, wide eyed, trembling, still believing transformation is a choice. These degrees are hungry, desperate, tearing at veils, whispering, show me what's underneath, show me the bones, show me the maggots in the silk dress. Early Scorpio doesn't know restraint. It is the frantic surgeon cutting open everything to see what pulses inside. The obsession here is raw jealousy, control, sex, power, tools clutched in trembling hands. The baby scorpion is reckless. Venom spilling out too fast, not yet refined into precision. 0 degrees to 14 degrees is the lab explosion, the lover who bites too hard, the truth that cuts before it's ready. 50 deg 15 degrees, 15 degrees to 29 degrees of Scorpio, the late degrees. Now you're seasoned, scarred, covered in ash, eyes glowing in the dark. These are the degrees that already burned in the furnace and came out metal. They don't scream anymore, they smirk. 15 degrees to 29 degrees Scorpio knows the cost of transformation, knows that every rebirth leaves a trail of ghosts. They are surgeons with steady hands now, wielding death as an artist's brush. The venom is precise, elegant, whispered through the veins instead of splattered on the walls. By the time you reach 29 degrees Scorpio, the anoretic degree, you've become the funeral pyre itself, the embodiment of destruction that leads to renewal. You are both the ashes and the flame, muttering, you thought you could kill me, but I am the corpse that breathes forever. Early Scorpio, 0 degrees to 14 degrees, the frantic exorcist, lovers clawing at the dark, bleeding for intensity. Late Scorpio, 15 degrees to 29 degrees, the necromancers, scarred saints of the underworld, masters of precision in death and rebirth. Scorpio is the theater of destruction. First act, frantic flames. Final act, eternal smoke. The audience already burned alive. Sagittarius, 0 degrees to 14 degrees of Sagittarius, the early degrees. This is raw ignition. The match struck in a library that nobody asked to burn. The young archer's hands are shaky, arrows flying in every direction, puncturing gods, professors, lovers, anything that moves. Early Sagittarius is intoxicated with possibility. Every book a revelation, every stranger a prophet, every highway an escape route. They preach before they understand, gamble before they have coins, scream truth like it's a fire alarm. 0 degrees to 14 degrees is pure combustion. Reckless wanderers, manic pilgrims, building bonfires out of anything flammable just to see the sparks. 15 degrees to 29 degrees of Sagittarius, the late degrees, the preacher has walked through deserts, climbed altars, drunk from poisoned wells. They are scorched now, eyes still burning but narrowed with cynicism. These degrees understand the price of chasing horizons. You never actually arrive. 15 degrees to 29 degrees Sagittarius is truth sharpened by despair, wisdom carved into scar tissue. They don't throw arrows wildly anymore. They aim, and when they shoot, it kills. These are the philosophers who've already kissed every religion and spat blood afterward. By 29 degrees Sagittarius, the anaretic degree, the sermon becomes a scream into the void. One last desperate arrow shot at God's empty throne, knowing it won't land, but shooting anyway because silence is worse. Early Sagittarius, 0 degrees to 14 degrees, reckless prophets, fire-drunk wanderers, manic arrows splitting the air. Late Sagittarius, 15 degrees to 29 degrees, scarred sages, weary gamblers, still chasing infinity through smoke and runes. Sagittarius is the theater of truth. First act, wild flames and drunken sermons. Final act, a prophet limping through ashes, whispering the horizon was a mirage, but I had to chase it anyway. 0 degrees to 14 degrees, Capricorn. The early degrees. This is the raw, hungry climb. The baby goat at the bottom of the cliff, staring up at the impossible summit, teeth chattering but claws digging anyway. These degrees are desperate for achievement, for recognition, for structure that doesn't collapse when you breathe on it. 0 degrees to 14 degrees Capricorn is ambition uncut, ambition before it learns the cost. They are frantic architects, young tyrants, children in suits made of stone. They build towers out of brittle bones, hungry to prove their existence. The mountain calls and they climb with cracked fingernails, terrified of falling, but more terrified of staying small. 15 degrees to 29 degrees Capricorn, the late degrees. This is ambition with scars, the climber who's already buried half the team on the mountain. These degrees are colder, darker, refined through loss. They've tasted power and know it's poisoned, but they still drink it because what else is there? 15 degrees to 29 degrees Capricorn has learned that success is a coffin lined with velvet. These souls move slower, heavier, deliberate, each step carved in blood. By 29 degrees Capricorn, the anaretic degree, the summit is reached and the air is so thin it feels like dying. You can't breathe, you can't stop, you can't even celebrate. The view is terrifying, empty, eternal. You realize the mountain was just another coffin, another weight, another mask of stone strapped to your skull. Early Capricorn, 0 degrees to 14 degrees, frantic climbers, hungry builders, obsessed with rising. Late Capricorn, 15 degrees to 29 degrees, weary kings, scarred architects, monarchs of dust and bones, still gripping the throne as it crumbles. Capricorn is the theater of ambition, first act, desperate ascent, final act, the summit's silence, the weight of stone crushing the chest, the applause muffled by snow. Aquarius, 0 degrees to 14 degrees Aquarius, the early degrees, raw static, the baby anarchists with a busted radio, picking up alien frequencies in their sleep. These degrees are obsessed with the new ideas, new revolutions, new maps of constellations no one else believes in yet. 0 degrees to 14 degrees is the manic visionary, half genius, half madman, scribbling equations on bathroom walls, inventing cults and basement bars. They scream about freedom like it's a drug, smashing chains before they even know what comes after. Early Aquarius is the protester who hasn't slept in weeks, the hacker spilling blueprints onto the floor, the scientist who mistakes chaos for liberation. 15 degrees to 29 degrees Aquarius, the late degrees, the prophet has burned through their own revolution. These are the haunted visionaries, colder, sharper, aware of the weight of trying to carry the collective on one pair of trembling shoulders. 15 degrees to 29 degrees Aquarius is truth refined through exile. They've seen how groups devour themselves, how utopias rot from the inside, and yet they keep building, keep screaming into the void. The ideas are sharper, colder, like glass shards instead of fireworks. By 29 degrees Aquarius, the anaretic degree, the revolution feels like a funeral. The prophet stands alone on the electric cliff, holding the blueprint for a world that will never arrive, whispering, I warned you, but you loved your chains too much. Early Aquarius, 0 degrees to 14 degrees, manic inventors, radical visionaries, chaos prophets chasing freedom like a fix. Late Aquarius, 15 degrees to 29 degrees, haunted futurists, scarred rebels, still sketching utopias in ash and static, knowing no one's listening. Aquarius is the theater of rebellion, first act, wild lightning strikes, final act, the prophet, screaming into static, ignored by the crowd, but electrified to the bone. Pisces, and I still have the fishy. Oh, you guys can't really see it. I'm gonna blind my viewers. I got that stick and poke done a few months ago by by a friend of mine at the time. That I was, funnily enough, I was going to Alcoholics Anonymous with, and I no longer see this person anymore. But I hope she's doing well. 0 degrees to 14 degrees of Pisces. The early degrees, raw dream stuff, half-formed visions leaking through cracked eyelids. These souls walk around like ghosts who forgot they're alive, dissolving in every room they enter. 0 degrees to 14 degrees Pisces is the sponge, soaking everything, every scream, every song, every shadow. They are wide-eyed mystics, drowning prophets, lovers who confuse their pulse with yours until they can't tell the difference. Early Pisces chases escape through love, through music, through needles, through prayer, anything to meet the edges of reality. They are fragile but dangerous because they don't know where they end and the world begins. And if you guys are familiar with the famous band Nirvana, which I don't know why you wouldn't be familiar with Nirvana, but in case you don't know Nirvana, Kurt Cobain is actually early degrees Pisces, and he was a heroin addict. And it's it's really sad because if you know his story, it all makes sense. In the birth chart, it all makes sense. So 15 degrees to 29 degrees of Pisces, the late degrees, that would be me. I'm at 26 degrees of Pisces or 25 degrees. This is the drowning saint, the addict turned mystic, the one who's already lost themselves 100 times and still floats back to the surface. These degrees are older, heavier, tired of crying in languages no one else hears. 15 degrees to 29 degrees of Pisces is surrender weaponized. They know there's no saving the dream, but they sing it anyway. They are the martyrs, the final poets, the mystics with bleeding tongues. By 29 degrees Pisces, the anoretic degree, the wheel is breaking. It's the last hallucination before Aries sets fire again. This is pure dissolution, the self evaporating, the curtain falling, the body sinking into the ocean while the soul whispers everything was illusion, everything was holy, everything was gone. Early Pisces, 0 degrees to 14 degrees, fragile dreamer, sponges of pain and beauty, swimming blindly through illusions. Late Pisces, 15 degrees to 29 degrees, weary saints, exhausted mystics, whispering prophecies in water, dissolving into eternity. Pisces is the theater of surrender, first act drowning in borrowed dreams, final act the stage collapses into the sea, and the audience wakes up alone. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your life with peace and love.